I have a question. I'm running out of time. It's two things. One, senior staff. So I have been a senior staff member. You take an oath when you get to come and work in this body. You want to make sure you're doing what's best for the United States of America, for the state you serve, all of the things. Is there any way to hold senior staff accountable for either helping to cover up and or moving people to the side? Because it is clear that there are people within this administration that saw that, and they should be sitting in front of us today answering the question of why they turned their back on America, because that's exactly what they did. And so whether it's secretaries, whether it's people in the administration, or whether it is senior staff, we deserve some accountability and we deserve some answers. And then my last question will be for Mr. Spicer, legacy media. How in the world do we hold them accountable? If all of us on the outside can see it and we are saying, get to the bottom of this, but yet they refuse, what mechanism should we put in place to be able to hold them accountable for not actually following what is clearly in front of them?
Senator, you're asking the right question. When it comes to accountability, it can't be overstated. When the Biden White House stripped 440 White House hard passes from independent journalists, they were attempting to control the narrative, to make sure that no one who wanted to hold them accountable was silenced. Part of what I think this administration has done so well is bringing in new voices, people from disparate backgrounds of all sorts, to ask the White House press secretary, to ask the senior staff, and to be able to hold them accountable. Part of it is allowing other voices in the media. We've seen what the legacy media did, but that's why I think the growth of independent media is so healthy for our democracy, and we need more of it, not less.
Thank you. And then the senior staff question, please.
Yeah, look, Senator, I mean, senior staff from the first Trump administration were brought in before committees and investigated for their participation in drafting the president's remarks on January 6th, for drafting a speech. So if there was an effort by senior staff, the Politburo, as they seem to like to have called themselves, if they were purposely distancing cabinet members, evading difficult Q&A with press, all as an attempt to conceal the president's mental acuity, yes, they should be held accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Moody.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn, Senator Schmidt. Appreciate you holding this important hearing. And certainly I appreciated my colleague, Senator Britt's remarks in listing out so many of the failures of the last administration as they played out. I think Americans, yes, sat horrified as they watched these events unfold, but at the core of those failures were bad policy decisions. And the truth is, people talk a lot about the end of the Biden administration and his debate performance. But those of us that were involved of the repercussion and the consequences of some really bad, irresponsible, reckless, I would say dangerous policies, and we're involved from day one of the Biden administration, we started questioning immediately who was making these decisions, because they were so disastrous for the security of this nation and the safety of our people. So I would say from day one of the presidency through all 4 years, this was a legitimate question, and every single failure that Senator Britt listed was the consequence of a policy decision. When I was the Florida Attorney General, one of the very first executive actions that came out undid both Republican and Democrat presidential precedents of saying, if someone is here in our country and they're here illegally and they are committing serious felonies, we are deporting them. And actual priorities were that those were the ones they went after first. And one of the very first actions that came out of that White House was they abandoned that both Democrats and Republican presidents had enforced, and released to all law enforcement around the nation that they were no longer going to make that a priority. When sheriffs were calling and pleading with us to take these people from their jails and not make them release them back into the communities, we would try and communicate this, but indeed they were canceling detainers and releasing these people into the communities. They were taking people that were brought here from other countries, brought here only to prosecute because they were a danger to our nation and our people. And instead of deporting them after their prison sentences, they were pushing them into the United States. And I don't think it should be lost on anyone that just yesterday it came out. You know how many the Trump administration pushed into our interior in the last 4 months? full month, 0. And I want you to compare that to a month of the Biden administration where hundreds of thousands of people, barely vetted, if vetted, were forced into our nation's interior. And you've seen these consequences play out. It's not just rape victims, murder victims, robbery victims. We've caught people here that's from foreign nations that are on the terrorist watch list that can cause some of our nation's biggest tragedies and devastation. That is the undermining of what a commander-in-chief is supposed to do in those policies. We saw it day one, and that's just one example. And it played out for 4 years.